Our man Stan Jackson is going to be coming up in studio with me. We'll be talking Ohio State football, tell you some exciting stuff about our best Buckeye coverage this year. If you missed it last hour, there's been a lot of chatter about this upcoming Ohio State football season and what is going to happen on game day. So this year, Ohio State is going to actually have a DJ on the field on game day to play music. And a lot of people have been shaking their heads saying, what are we doing at Ohio State? I've gotten a couple of notes, people like, isn't that what the band is there for? And I don't understand why we need a DJ to play music. We had Director of Athletics, Gene Smith, on last hour, and I asked him about that whole controversy, and because a lot of people are in an uproar. What's this thing about having a DJ playing music during timeouts at the Ohio State football game? Here's Gene Smith on the DJ.
One is, first of all, let me address the band. It's not to make the band. We've always played piped-in music over our system for years.
Yep.
So the band didn't always play on every single quiet moment. So the DJ will supplement as opposed to coming over the system, the DJ will play it. And the other piece is, as you well know, our stadium is full of a different demographic. I wasn't the person that said, let's do a DJ, because I'm from old school, right?
Yeah.
But there's, 29,000 young people who are going to love the DJ. And that's another group of people we have to serve. So these ideas came from students. And we've lost a number of season ticket holders in our student population. So we want to try and make sure we help create an atmosphere beyond the game that excites our students.
I'm one of those that is in the wait and see mode. I have to admit, my first reaction when I saw that was, really? We're going to do a DJ on the field? But one thing that Gene said in there, and I had thought about after I saw this, and I hate to admit this, but I'm aging out of the demographic that they're trying to hit. I'm not a student. I was a student 30 years ago, so I do kind of get it. Do I like it? No, but I understand what they're trying to do. So are you in an uproar about the DJ on the field, Stan, or are you okay with that during timeouts?
I'm good with it. I'm not worried about my lawn. It's patchy anyway. By the way, it wouldn't be Jackson and McCoy if I didn't show up late for this. Traffic was brutal.
Traffic was tough.
It was. No, I don't have a problem with it. I think they continue to evolve, to incorporate everybody, right? And you mentioned how you're aging out of a certain demographic group, so now you're actually part of one of the older populations in the stadium, and so your feel is going to be a little different. I'm sure when you were younger, there were some things that you liked that older population didn't quite enjoy or understand. And so I think they have to do those things. I'm surprised a little bit because you would think, though, your demographic, people your age, my age, we're the ones who can actually afford those expensive tickets.
Agreed.
So I would think they would want to eliminate some of the student tickets. So I'm a little surprised that they want to keep that population high. And a part of it is for the energy, though. And we often talk about it. At times, our crowd isn't the best. We've got one of the biggest stadiums in the country. It's got some of the best tradition. But when you think of some of the best atmospheres to play in, Ohio State isn't top 5 at times. People don't consider it top 5. And I'm talking about from a coach's perspective when you come into a stadium.
In terms of being a tough place to play.
Yes. Now, there are moments where it is the toughest place to play.
The Michigan game last year, for example, was
Penn
great.
State,
yes.
Notre Dame, the big dogs come rolling in. But a lot of times, our fans expect so much that, when teams like a Bowling Green or Cincinnati roll in and you don't get that same atmosphere.
All right, that's Stan Jackson, and we've got some news about our best Buckeye coverage this year that we're going to share with you. He's with me the rest of the hour. We'll talk Ohio State football and more.
News Radio 610 WTVN.
Matt McCoy with you for another half hour, and then as of tomorrow, Joel Riley is back in this chair, and I'll be back doing sports. Joined in studio this hour by Stan Jackson. Now, Stan and I have been working together for a long time. 2007 was your first year when Ohio State played LSU for the national title. And I've been on this show nonstop for like 15 years, with the exception of like 14 months when you and I did a show on our sister station, 105.7 The Zone, which went away. But we had a show, Jackson and McCoy. Good news for those of you who miss us. We are going to do a show, Jackson McCoy, via podcast. We're going to start a weekly podcast during Buckeye football season. We'll recap the Buckeyes, and not only the Buckeyes, Stan, I think it's going to be good. The Browns actually might be good this year.
Maybe. If Baker can stay out of trouble.
You're not convinced?
No, I'm not convinced.
Are you? What gives you pause about the Browns?
Their locker room is going to be a mess. It's going to be a mess.
Odell, Baker?
No. With Baker. Let's stop. It's Baker first. He's a mess. He's a mess. Huge talent. Much better than I thought he'd be. Very accurate. But he's a mess.
Got to keep his mouth shut.
Got to
just play football.
Remember, you go back to the start of minicamp where he was talking about Duke Johnson. Players don't like that. And just be quiet sometimes. I mean,
the Daniel Jones thing last week with GQ, or
exactly, just be quiet. Like, listen, okay, so your numbers were okay, so you broke some records in a new era of football, but you didn't win a lot of games. Settle down, buddy.
A lot of people have crowned him, and that would be my concern about the Browns is that they've been crowned too quickly. Like
exactly.
They got a mesh. They got
new head coach, never done it before.
Yeah.
A lot of young players, a lot of guys that you sort of have to figure out. How do you think the season's going to go in the first 3 weeks if Odell isn't getting the rock?
That's going to be an interesting dynamic.
Right. Think about the depth they have at running back, especially when
Kareem Hunt comes back.
As a coach, you look at that, you think, hey, let's run the football. Offensive line has improved. So now if you start running the ball too much, you got all those receivers, you got a good tight end. I mean, how do you marry all those characters so that you don't have any issues in the locker room or on the sideline?
It's going to be.
I'm curious.
And Freddie Kitchens is the one that's got to do it, and he's never.
And I got to tell you,
and he's never been a head coach before.
But they are loaded with talent. There's a lot of talent. Defensively, they look great, but Kitchens is a hothead too.
Yeah, I think they're going to be good. I do. But Stan and I are going to start a podcast. We're going to do it weekly. We're going to take a break here for traffic and weather every 10 minutes on the 10s. When we come back out of the news at the bottom of the hour, we're going to talk more about Stan. Want to get into this Buckeye team and what we can expect this year. 8:37. Thanks for joining us this morning on News Radio 610 WTVN. Stan Jackson, best Buckeye coverage analyst, also analyst for the Big Ten Network, joining me in studio this hour. We were talking little Browns before the bottom of the hour. Buckeyes start the season Saturday. What do you expect from Justin Fields this year?
That's a great question. Listen, I think from a standpoint of talent, he's as gifted as any quarterback we've ever had, probably since Troy Smith, quite frankly. He's got the explosiveness of Braxton Miller, so he can run similar to what Braxton was able to do. But I think he throws better than Braxton. He throws more like Troy Smith. The question is, how fast can he pick up the offense, retain all this information, process it on the field, and be successful? I mean, because even though Dwayne Haskins only started 1 year for us, he was in our program 3 years. He had an opportunity to sit behind J.T. Barrett, watch him make mistakes. He had chances to play the year before in moments where he was able to grow up. Like we often talk about the pick six he threw, there early in the season. So he was able to sort of see JT in the mix and then learn from him and also learn from his own mistakes. Well, Justin's doesn't have that luxury. Mm-hmm. He barely played last year at Georgia. And now he's coming into a new system, a very sophisticated system, different from what he did at Georgia. Can he pick it up fast enough that will allow him to utilize all his weapons so you don't have to make him a pick and pop guy?
What do you think of the quarterback room right now in that there's no one
very shallow?
Well, that and also no one's been there very long. And that seems Ohio State isn't unique to that. There's so many quarterbacks transferring from place to place, looking for somewhere to start. Tate Martell leaves to go to Miami, and he doesn't win the starting job. And all of a sudden, Saturday, he's lined up at wideout. I mean, he could have stayed here and done something like that and with a package. Are guys bailing too quickly?
Well, I don't know. I think we need a few more years to figure that out. I mean, because the guys who failed in their transfer, Tate Martell, Alex Hornibrook out of Wisconsin.
Yeah, he was named a backup.
The backup. You also have successes like Justin Fields. He's starting.
Jalen Hurts is starting at Oklahoma.
Jalen Hurts is starting at Oklahoma. Brandon Peters is starting for Illinois, transfer from Michigan. Hunter Johnson is starting at Northwestern. I do believe that Maryland also, Josh Jackson is going to be starting a transfer from Virginia Tech.
What is Kelly Bryant, the kid that lost his job at Clemson, is starting at Missouri.
So there are a handful of guys that did make that transition that are starting, and they're not all grad transfers. Most of them are. And so I think guys have to do a better job of locating the school they're going to and who's there. So I think Tate made a rash decision in haste. I think he didn't really look at what was in Miami, because if you look down there, you would have noticed they had some young quarterbacks that, have talent as well, that have been in that system. Maybe you shouldn't go there. There's a new coach coming in. So, everybody's starting from scratch. You should have went somewhere where they had nobody. You probably should have went to UNLV, to be honest with you.
Which, yes, back near his home in Las Vegas, and that's his high school coach.
It is.
That's right.
So, listen, I think sometimes, everybody can't make the transition from high school to college, just like everybody can't make that transition from college to pro. It's difficult. And guys are going to have to make decisions that are best for them. I think Matthew Baldwin might kick himself more than anybody.
He was the kid that was here at Ohio State,
yes,
competed during the spring, left for TCU.
And didn't get cleared, and can throw it. But Matthew can play. I think he would have been in the mix. I really believe that.
Yeah.
Had he stayed through fall.
Well, the thing we heard about Justin Fields is the mistakes he's making, having trouble picking up the offense. That would not have been the case had Matthew Baldwin stuck around.
Exactly. I mean, the spring is so short that you sometimes have to stay a little longer.
We're going to talk a couple more minutes with Stan. Traffic and weather, though, on the 10s. All right, normally here we do sports, but since Stan's here, we're just going to talk the last couple of minutes with Stan Jackson. We are starting a Jackson and McCoy podcast that we'll do weekly throughout the course of the year, adding to our best Buckeye coverage with game day Saturdays and also Bucks Line on Thursday. Our first Bucks Line coming up this Thursday, 6 to 8 at the Buffalo Wild Wings on Bethel Road. I was asking you about the quarterbacks and Justin Fields. I want to flip to the other side, the defense. They were historically bad last year in terms of the big plays they gave up, yet this team went 13-1. The only returning defensive coach is Larry Johnson. A whole new staff. Jeff Hafley there with the defensive backs. Greg Madison comes over from Michigan. Now Washington from Michigan. Any concerns about this defense? Or are you excited about this defense and think it's going to be a completely different unit?
I'm excited. Have you seen Chase Young? Man, I don't know what they did to that dude. I don't know if he went to the lab and they did a $6 million surgery on him. But, boy, does he look the part.
He's a man-child. But he always – I remember the first day he was on campus, I go, there's some guys that all show up and you go, man, he's a player. And he did. But I agree with you. He's gotten even bigger and faster.
No, I think we're going to be very good on the defensive end. I'm expecting the right changes. It kind of reminds me when we went from Coach Young to Coach Puckich. Coach Young played it safe on times defensively, even though we had real talent there. And we were exposed. We were exposed by Tim Biakabatuka. You remember that? 95. Coach Puckich comes in, changes things. We get more aggressive. We play more man-to-man. We blitz more, put pressure on quarterbacks. I expect that because, the two coaches that we've added came from Michigan, and that's what they do. And so if we can do that with our athletes, I think we'll be fine. Now having a Brendan White in position from the beginning of the season, I think is an impact position. I think he'll be well. And linebackers, we got way more depth. So, no, I think this defense is going to make a lot of improvements. I don't think we'll see all the big plays from a year ago. But I will say this. We do have to adjust our thought process about defenses. I mean, this team did go 13-1. We're in a new era where everybody's throwing it, everybody's spreading out. For God's sakes, even Michigan went out and hired a coordinator that's going to run the spread.
Right.
So the time is changing. I don't think you're always going to be able to corral every offense and limit big plays. But I think we're going to be better than we were a year ago.
Okay, before I let you go, shifting gears from Ohio State, a big sports story this week, and there's been a lot of debate and stuff. Andrew Luck deciding, hey, I've had broken ribs, I've had torn cartilage, I had a punctured, lacerated kidney, for heaven's sakes, beaten up, not a great offensive line. He's dealing with leg and calf injuries this year. 29, he said, I'm out. Got booed by the home fans Saturday.
They're ridiculous.
Yeah. What was your take on Andrew Luck? He did something, the way I put it, if I was in his position and could do it, and if you still didn't love it, I don't blame the guy at all.
The only problem I have is timing.
Right before the season.
Right before the season. But I do believe that he was trying to get back. And we don't know the conversations he's had with the coach. Maybe he let them know, look, guys, I don't know if I can do this anymore. I'm trying to get back, but there's a good chance I might retire. Let's see how it goes. He's talked about playing a full season through pain. I mean, we've had guys to do that. But, you go back to when Brett Favre was doing it, he was doing it on a bunch of pain pills.
Yep.
So we don't want him to do that. We want guys to have quality of life. And, football is different. It's not for the faint of heart. As you know, I coach my kids all the way through the 6th grade, and I tell them that this is not for everybody. I have some parents who bring their kids out there, they're terrified. So if Andrew Luck is in a position where he feels like, look, the joy is gone because I'm so banged up. Because, all I do is stay in therapy room. I didn't even get to practice last year. So now I'm home, I'm mad at it. I don't get to enjoy my wife and kids. I've got plenty of money. I think he's well within his right to make that decision. I just wish the timing for the Colts would have been better. But look, they got backup quarterbacks. Jacoby Brissett has been there. He's a guy that I think, he's not Andrew Luck, but he's a good enough quarterback so that they could win games. I think you got to trust the guy. He's not the first guy to Jim Brown did it.
Yep.
Right?
Barry Sanders
did it.
Yep.
Their timing was a little different. They did it at the end of the season so that the team could prepare. And I think the Colts fans are just disappointed because he was the heir apparent to Peyton Manning. Very rarely do you have a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback leave or get traded, and the next guy that follows is as good as Andrew Luck.
Yep.
Maybe San Francisco had that luxury with Steve Young. And so they were waiting for that team to get back to where they were good enough to compete and for a Super Bowl. And I think with Andrew Luck, they would have been good enough this year.
All right, that's Stan Jackson. He's part of our Best Buckeye coverage team. And Jackson and McCoy podcast, look for it. We're going to supplement that to our Best Buckeye coverage, which you hear on the air on News Radio 610 WTVN.